Hello everyone, my name is Makeda Voletta, also known as the Body Scientist and Queen Lioness. So for those of you who don't know me, I am a personal trainer, a nutritionist, a professional Afro-diasporic dancer, and a sacred sexual educator. So everything I do has to do with the body, okay? I've dedicated my life to studying the body, the inside, the outside, and all around it, okay? Today, my video is going to focus on sexual diversity, gender diversity in indigenous cultures, okay? This is a topic that is very near and dear to me because I have been involved in sexuality education since I was in junior high school. Sexuality education, dealing with people's ideas around sexuality and their comfort level with various topics, involving sexuality. And, currently this world is very focused on heterosexual people, that this is the only way that's so-called natural and that that's the only way that's right to be, okay? But the reality of it is that the world consists of a lot more than just black and white, okay? Black and white are two colors in the spectrum, but most people and things in the world are not black or white. They are all the various colors in between. The reds, the oranges, the blues, the greens, the yellows, the purples, and all the various shades and undertones that come with those colors, okay? But the entire world has been colonized now, so many things that people say today, is how it's always been. It isn't how it's always been, okay? Many things have changed under patriarchy, under the name of religion, okay? The main religions in the world that were, really responsible for this patriarchal, overtake, it has been Christianity, specifically the Roman Catholic Church, and Islam and Judaism, okay? You look at the Middle East and you look at the treatment of women in the Islamic world, and also in Judaism, how women are told they cannot be rabbis, they cannot, be in control, and that their place is just to have babies, okay? A lot of this is coming from patriarchy. Well, it is coming from patriarchy, okay? So under the suppression of women and the suppression of the goddess and the destruction of the goddess temples on every continent, also came the suppression of sexuality, okay? People on every continent worshipped the Mother Earth goddess first, okay? Recognized that we come from the earth, okay? The dark, fertile, wet, feminine earth, okay? And under these matriarchal traditions, sexuality was viewed completely different. And sexuality and sexual energy has an extremely strong connection to shamanism. Because as I've explained in previous videos that I've done, sexuality and spirituality are of the same continuum, okay? They're of the same continuum. So, for example, in many cultures, the pre-colonial cultures, prehistoric cultures, the shamans were first women. Okay, most of them were women, and there were male shamans, but most of the time they had to dress as women, and this is well documented all throughout Asia, throughout the Americas, throughout Africa. The cross-dressing that took place, where in order for the spirits to speak to certain men, they would have to dress as women. And when spirits would mount people in ceremonies, like this is very well documented in many books I've read about traditional African spirituality in Brazil, where they always speak about the fact that spirits mount the woman, and they mount men that have a lot more feminine energy, okay? So mounting means possession, however, somebody wants to call it, but it's when a spirit comes into one's body. The female body is known to be more capable to do that, to host that spirit, because of the fact that we give birth. Even if we don't give birth, even if we choose not to have children, we still have a womb and we still have the ability. So the female brain in itself is different than the male brain because there are more connections between the right and left sides of the female brain, and there's more gray matter, okay, in between the right and left sides of the female brain than the male brain. So that doesn't mean that women are better than men. It just means that women can process a lot more information, a lot more stimulus at once, very, very rapidly, okay? Whereas men need a little bit more time. They can't deal with necessarily too much coming from too many different places at once, all right? This is why oftentimes when women and men get into arguments, women keep talking and talking and talking, And men a lot of times shut down, and women get frustrated, like, why isn't he saying anything? Why isn't he blah, blah, blah? But, men cannot, deal with all of that coming at them at once. They need more time to sit with it, to think about it, and stuff like that, to process the information. Yes, there are exceptions to the rules, as there always are. But in the bulk, the bulk, the bulk of the time, that's what it is. Okay. Now, so a man with more feminine energy are the ones that are known to be penetrated by spirit. Oftentimes, those men, if you're using modern day terms like gay, lesbian, bisexual, those terms weren't used in traditional cultures. So when people will say that, oh, there's no word for gay in African languages, and that's true because of how they saw it. Okay, so which is I'm going to explain, but let's say that sexuality and spirituality are of the same continuum. So that means a woman is penetrated sexually, then she's also much easier to be penetrated spiritually. Okay. Now, the only men who are penetrated sexually are men who are engaging in acts with other men. So they're being penetrated sexually. And that makes them more open to being penetrated spiritually. This is the reason why men with more feminine energy were considered to be special. Okay, they weren't considered to be regular men. Okay, in indigenous cultures, we have they recognize that somebody could be physically female and have a male spirit. Or somebody could be physically female and have a female spirit. Somebody could be physically female and have a male and a female spirit. And somebody can be physically male and have a female spirit, or they can be physically male and have a male spirit, or they can be physically male and have both, okay? And each one of those had a different name and a different gender identity and role in society. In indigenous cultures, there was the woman's role and the man's role, okay? And that was so that culture, that civilization could, handle all the duties that they need to handle and take care of the home and the society, so everything runs fluidly. Okay? So some people will say, oh, the men hunted and the women gathered. But that's not necessarily true. There were always female hunters and there were always male gatherers. Not all the men hunted. Some men gathered, okay? Now, within these gender roles, okay, it was known that there were women who were born with male spirits, and let's say in Native American civilizations, the women who were born with male spirits, they were the hunters, they were the warriors, okay, and a lot of times it was taboo for them to have sex with a male, because if they had sex with a male, it was known to take away their hunting power, so that was taboo, okay. Now, if you have a female with a male spirit having sex with a man with a male spirit, that is considered to be two masculines coming together, okay, which does not go together. Now, if you have and when you have men with female spirits, okay, they were not considered to be the masculine men. They didn't have the same gender role. They oftentimes were doing the woman's work, okay. They were doing the stuff with the woman, and they were considered to be shamans because they understood more than just, a man with a male spirit just understands men. But a male with a female spirit can understand both sides. And that's the reason why dual-spirited people were considered to be special people and, in the middle of the two sexes. So they were often the mediators between the two sexes, okay? There are plenty of primary documents that clearly show that when the anthropologists and the missionaries and the colonizers came to the Americas, and when they came to Africa, when they came to India, all throughout Asia, okay, the Caribbean, what they saw, they documented the fact that they did see cross-dressing. They saw women cross-dressing as men, such as Queen Nzinga and her male wives, okay? So they saw women cross-dressing. They saw men cross-dressing. And they wrote about how disgusting it was to them, and they just were absolutely appalled and made fun of indigenous people and used it as a reason to annihilate and torture and colonize indigenous people because they were so-called heathens. Okay, now in the Americas, that was one of the main reasons that they used. That was one of the main reasons they used to just justify just massively killing Native Americans because of the cross-dressing they saw. And in those societies, if a masculine male, if a male with a male spirit is interacting sexually with a male with a female spirit, that wasn't considered to be gay because that male with a female spirit was not considered to be a regular man. That's a feminine energy, a female spirit, and a male spirit that are coming together. Okay, it's not a masculine male, two masculine men, two men with male spirits. That was considered to be taboo. Okay, and another thing that was highly valued in most indigenous societies was having children. Okay, so oftentimes it was expected and normal for people to, for women to play around sexually with women or men to interact with men, and nobody cared. People minded their business. They weren't concerned with what people did in their bedroom. What they were concerned about is that you have children at some point, okay? So just because you have a male who is doing things with another male with a female spirit, or you have a, woman with a female spirit, interacting with another female, does not mean that they cannot have children, okay? Sometimes people played around like that when they were young, and then they grow up, they're expected to reproduce, okay? Once their children are taken care of, a lot of times people go their separate ways and change as well, okay? But the offspring was very important. If somebody said that, oh, I'm going to be, if a masculine male said, I'm going to live with this female, this feminine male, and not have kids and not be with a woman, then that would be looked at down upon in most societies, but by most societies, because they expect them to have children. Okay, but even then, they would not disown them or try to kill them or anything like that. Okay, but reproduction was valued. So when people talk about, why being gay is wrong, and that, two men or two women cannot reproduce, that's true. But it must be kept in mind that the only purpose for sex is not reproduction. Okay, and there are many people, even people who are completely 100% straight, who don't want any children. Okay. And just because somebody does engage in same-sex activities does not mean that they cannot reproduce. So those things all need to be kept in mind. But again, the only purpose of reproduction, the only purpose of sex is not reproduction. Okay, there are many purposes. And sexuality and spirituality, again, are of the same continuum. So sex always has a spiritual component, all right? And all in all, whether or not you or anybody understands why somebody would want to do whatever it is they're doing, really what is important for people to remember is that it's not for you to understand. The only thing you need to understand is what you like and what makes you happy and what you need to be sexually fulfilled, okay? It is very important for each individual to make sure their sexual needs are met and that they are sexually fulfilled and that they are having great orgasms on a regular basis, either by themselves or with somebody, okay? And that they're not suppressing themselves. And the reason why is because sexual suppression makes people sick and crazy. And that's what makes perverts. And now you see the Roman Catholic Church telling the fathers that they can't have sex and nuns can't have sex. And look at all the abuse that happens, okay? That's where the perverts come from, okay? The church is full of them. I remember being in college and seeing all the people in gospel choir who are preaching that sex before marriage is wrong and dancing is wrong and everything's a sin. But half of them had babies before we graduated college, okay? So, it's really important. So as long as nobody is doing anything with any children, okay, because that is way too common, and I'm starting to discover in my adult life that sexual abuse, in childhood is way more common than not, okay, and it's sickening, okay, and it really has brought me to a place where I'm really starting to, want to research where this came from and what is that about, because it's just too common, okay, and all the things that happen around it where people don't want to talk about it. It's important for people to be able to express their sexuality openly and freely with consenting adults. As long as it's consenting adults and nobody is doing anything with children or doing anything with anybody against their will, it's nobody's business, okay? And looking at the ancient artwork, we see a variety of sexual scenes all over the world, and so same-sex sexual activity has been happening since the beginning of time. It didn't come from, I've heard lots of, so-called pro-black, black people who, like to say that homosexuality in Africa came from Europeans or came from the Greeks, and that's completely not true, okay? And there are a lot of Africans who may argue the same thing. But Africa has been colonized, and many Africans, just like many Native Americans and many Chinese and everybody else who have been colonized, a lot of them are ashamed now of what they were, because colonialism has really got into people's minds. So people are ashamed of what they are. So a lot of things dealing with sexuality and ideas around sexuality and gender is not talked about. And when it is, what people swear was, always, and what people swear was always tradition, a lot of times has been rewritten because of colonialism. So that's one thing to definitely keep in mind. So it is very important to me to look at pre-colonial artwork, okay, and to study the cosmology of various cultures, okay, because in Africa you find many androgynous deities, okay, just like you do amongst the Mayans and amongst the Aztecs and amongst many Asian, East Indian deities. You find many androgynous male-female deities, okay? So, anything that exists in the physical world also exists in the spiritual realm, okay? Whatever exists, whatever we can see, whatever exists in the seen world also exists in the unseen. So if we know that there are physically hermaphrodites, there are people on this planet who physically have both male and female genitalia, but they often feel like just one sex. So you have people who may have been born with male and female genitalia, but when they were babies, their parents, decided to make them either a man or a woman. So let's say that now this person, their parents gave them the surgery to make them a woman, but they feel like they should have been a man, okay? And then inside, they're saying, I feel like a man, or vice versa. So just like you can have someone who physically is two sexes, but spiritually feels like one, spiritually one sex. The same thing is true with, in the spiritual realm. You can have someone who's physically one sex, so they're physically female, but they have a male and a female spirit. Or someone who's physically male, so they have a male and a female spirit. So they can go back and forth between male and female, even though they're physically one thing. Those people who can go back and forth between the male and female, who are not clearly cut on one side, were considered to be more powerful and have more special powers, and were often the healers, the shamans, the mediators in indigenous cultures. And I really urge you to do your own research and not just listen to me. I have spent many years studying this, going to conferences. I remember being at a conference at Columbia University back in 2006 on traditional African spiritual practices. And it was a 3-day conference, and they had workshops about everything. And there was a workshop on same-sex gender function and ritual. And how I remember there's a male priest and a female priestess, and they were talking about the role of the gatekeepers, okay? And I would definitely tell you to check out Maldomo Some's book, where he talks about the gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers, what we would now call are gay men, okay? Men who are engaging in same-sex sexual activities were considered very special. And if you think about it, okay, let's really be real, okay? Let's set aside the hate and let's deal with the real. And being real, what we see is you look at the artwork, the art worlds, okay? Whether it's fashion, dance, theater, drama, all of that. What else? Music. It's full of gay people, male and females, okay? But anybody who's a dancer definitely knows gay men, okay? Anybody who's working in the fashion industry is surrounded by gay men. Anything artistic, you have a lot of gay men and gay females because, there are lots of women in the entertainment industry, actresses and models and singers and rappers even, okay? Just think about the 90s and a lot of the females that were out, okay? A lot of them were not straight. Now, this idea, of what, these categories of straight and gay and bisexual, even people often identify as one thing, but people often are not just one thing. Like you have people who identify as being black, but the genealogy may show some Asian or some European or some East Indian or, something else that may be in their bloodline, even though they identify as one thing. Okay, so the identity, how people identify racially or sexually has to do with the boxes that society has given us to choose from. And many people who are supposed to be thinking from an uncolonized place and they're supposed to be so-called conscious really think just like the colonizers. And the things that they say comes completely from the missionaries and the colonizers. And there are many books that I have listed on this YouTube page. If you look below my video, I have a long list of books that you can check out yourself, okay, and do your own research on this topic. Because like I said, this is something that I have been researching for years, okay? So I'm speaking from a place of thorough research, okay? from not just book knowledge either, okay? And even the books that you read, you want to see who wrote it, and what were the methods used, and how did they obtain the information, and what are their citations, okay? So you want to be also very critical of the people whose work that you read, okay? But there definitely is a long legacy of the Amazon women who were real. Okay, and that term really stands for fighting women, and they existed on every continent. And really, women started fighting when the patriarchy started trying to take over and conquer. Okay, because before that, things were peaceful. In the matriarchal traditions, things were peaceful. People were not fighting and killing each other and raping each other and doing all this craziness. But once the patriarchal civilizations tried to come and take over, the women began to fight. Okay, and those women who were brutal fighters oftentimes had male spirits, okay, and were sexually connecting with each other. Because the other thing too, there's a book called The Double Goddess by a woman named Vicky Noble. Highly recommend the book. It's the only book I've ever seen that talks about the double goddess figurines that have been found all over the world. Okay, so all over the world, throughout Europe, throughout Africa, throughout the Americas, there are these double goddess figurines. And basically, they are ancient, very, very, very ancient figurines made of stone, where you have two women, two goddesses, two queens, who are doing work together. They're ruling together. Sometimes they're in sexual positions. Sometimes, it could be they're riding a horse together. They're doing various things, leading together. So you have the double queen, the double goddess, okay? And female sexual energy is like a battery, okay? We're like a generator, okay? We generate energy. And our sexual energy pulls in, okay? Whereas male sexual energy goes out. But being like generators of energy, women connecting sexually can actually build up a lot of energy and make those women vibrate on higher levels, okay? So then you have a man who may connect with a woman like that, because and he will gain a lot more energy from a woman who's cultivating with women. And sexual energetics and this idea of gender and sex is very complex and deep and can go into very many places. And I don't want to talk your head off in this video, and I know I'm probably going to get lots of people attacking me for especially mentioning men. Many people just want to dismiss gay men or bisexual men as if something's wrong with them and that they're disgusting and and this is unnatural. Okay, but that's not true. That is the missionaries talking. Okay, there are primary documents from missionaries and European cultural anthropologists who were sick and disgusted with what they saw, and they wrote about it. Okay, and so these documents are there, and they use it to torture people, our ancestors, okay, for this. And again, this is I may do a part 2 of this video. This is part 1. I may do a part 2, but I did this video because to me it's just unacceptable for people to be judging other people and getting mad and feeling like it's okay to kill somebody because of what they choose to do sexually. It's nobody's business, okay? So it's part of my life mission to help increase tolerance, right? Tolerance in society, and also, which comes with education, and also for people, every individual who may be watching my video. My sincere hope is that you can find a place where you're comfortable with yourself enough to be okay with yourself, and don't make people make you think something is wrong with you, okay? Only you know you, okay? And no matter what your reasons are for whatever it is you choose, whether you were born that way or somebody was, people can say, oh, somebody is gay or they're like this, because somebody abused them. That could be the case sometimes. It's not always the case, But maybe somebody is like that because they were abusing. Then maybe that's the medicine they need to heal themselves, That's not for you to judge or for anybody to judge. But what we do know is that when you make somebody feel sickly guilty and horrible about themselves, it turns them into a sick person, a pervert, and a destructive person, a very destructive person. And that's not good for any of us, because sick people and destructive people affect the vibrations that all of us have to deal with, okay? So it's very, very important, like, sexuality, that's our root chakra, our sacral chakra, Our sacral chakra is our womb. That's where we connect with the world. That's where we store trauma, okay? So to hit somebody there and to make them feel this horrible, 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 deep-set guilt can really make somebody sick, okay? And when religions are preaching that touching yourself is horrible and, oh, you're going to go to hell and you're falling further away from God because you touched yourself, that's ridiculous, okay? It's your body. Why wouldn't you want to make your body feel good? What would be so wrong about you touching yourself and making your own body that belongs to you feel better? Your body belongs to nobody but you. It's your number one and prime responsibility for your own pleasure. So stuff like that I don't respect. And for my entire life, I will be working to educate people on the truth, okay? So again, please take a look at my list of books below, and you can begin your own research of journey, okay? And for those of you who would like to find me, you can find me on Facebook at Makeda Voletta - the Body Scientist, okay? I hope this video was helpful for you all, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye. Have a great day.